Bang, bang, bang. The deafening assault on my door was about to splinter the cheap particle board I'd scored for $9.99 off Facebook Marketplace. Ethan Vance, the one and only heir to the Vance Holdings fortune, was hunched in a $200 gaming chair, unloading a world of hurt on a final boss. Damn it, who the hell is that? I'm about to clinch the server first kill. I yelled without turning around. Leave a message or slide a check under the door, but don't make me call the cops for a noise complaint. The pounding stopped for 2 seconds, then a voice, as cold and sharp as an icicle, pierced the thin wood. You have 10 seconds to open this door. Otherwise, I'll have it replaced with a reinforced steel one, and I'll deduct the cost from your corpse. Oh, she did not just say that. To dodge a corporate marriage arranged by my old man, I'd faked bankruptcy, pocketed some spare cash, and gone aground in this cesspool of a building known as the Serpent's Coil, the oldest, grimiest, most chaotic corner of Chicago. All I wanted was some peace and quiet. But less than a month in, I'd apparently run into the final boss of Karen's. I paused the game and, with extreme reluctance, shuffled to the door in my flip-flops. The woman standing outside made me freeze for a solid 3 seconds. It wasn't just that she was beautiful, though she was ridiculously so. A crisp, white power suit was tailored to a frame that would make a supermodel weep, and her makeup was so flawless each eyelash seemed to be standing at military attention. But what really shocked me was her face. It looked like it had just been fished out of liquid nitrogen, and her eyes were sharp enough to perform surgery. The way she looked at me, I felt like she'd already convicted and sentenced me in her head. Something I can help you with, I drawled, leaning against the doorframe and digging a pinky in my ear. She didn't speak. Instead, those piercing eyes scanned me from head to toe. From my bedhead that defied gravity, to the yellowing collar of my white t-shirt, to the questionable stain on my boxer shorts, before finally landing on my footwear. A Nike slide on the left foot and an Adidas on the right. Both obvious knockoffs. Her brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. Her thin lips parted to utter 3 words. You live here? What do you think? If I don't live here, do I live at your place? I scoffed, crossing my arms. Look, lady, spit it out. I'm in the middle of saving the world. She ignored my sarcasm and squeezed past me into the apartment. A pleasant but aggressively potent scent of cold perfume enveloped me. Hey, that's breaking and entering, I yelled. She paid me no mind, surveying her surroundings like a queen inspecting a blighted territory. Her gaze swept over the graveyard of ramen cups on my desk, the laundry basket in the corner that was starting to cultivate its own ecosystem, and the faint traces of mildew blooming on the wall. Finally, she stopped in front of my twin-size bed, turned to me, and gave me a look brimming with disgust and utter disbelief. Ethan Vance? She asked. My heart skipped a beat. Crap, she found me? No, that's impossible. Besides my father and my best friends, nobody should recognize this face. My supposed fiancée had only ever seen a photo of me from when I was 10. Who's asking? You with the census. I decided to play dumb. She pulled a phone from her Hermes bag, brought up a photo, and shoved it in my face. It was a young man in a tailored suit, looking every bit the corporate prince. He looked a little like me, sure, but the vibe was night and day. This is the official photo Vance Holdings provides of their runaway groom, she said, her eyes flicking between the photo and my face. A hint of mockery laced her tone. It seems the rumors were exaggerated. You're much uglier in person. Wait, who is this woman? How does she have that god-awful PR photo? And from the sound of it, she knows my fiancé. What do you want? I asked, my guard up. She put her phone away, her gaze sweeping the room once more before delivering her verdict. It appears you really are bankrupt. Living in a place even the cockroaches would turn their noses up at. My eye twitched. This woman's tongue was sharper than a surgeon's scalpel. Just then, a roar erupted from my computer speakers. Ethan, where'd you go? The boss is enraged. Get back here and heal me, man. I glanced back instinctively. In that split second of distraction, she moved. She walked to my desk, picked up the cup of spicy beef ramen I'd just made, still steaming, and, right in front of my eyes, dumped the entire thing into the trash can. Holy crap, my vision went red. That was my dinner. What are you doing? I lunged toward her like a feral cat whose food had been stolen. She clapped her hands together elegantly, as if dusting off something filthy, and stared at me coldly. As of now, you're hired. 30,000 a month. Yes or no? I froze. 30,000 a month? I barely cleared 5 grand a month boosting gaming accounts. Was this some kind of divine intervention? Hold on. My brain kicked into overdrive. Hired for what? Who are you? She pulled a business card from her bag and handed it to me. The card was jet black, with a single line of gold embossed text. Ava Sterling, CEO, Nexus Dynamics. My brain short-circuited. Ava Sterling, my arranged marriage partner, the one they called the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley, the ruthless, brilliant corporate shark, was named Ava Sterling. So, this woman who just trashed my dinner and was now trying to buy my soul was the fiancée I'd been trying so desperately to avoid. She didn't recognize me. She thought I was just some broke loser. Looking at her condescending, in-control expression, a wicked and thrilling idea began to bloom in my mind. 30,000 a month? I cleared my throat, forcing myself to look like I'd never seen so much money in my life, my eyes glittering with greed. For real? You'd hire someone like me? A barely perceptible smirk touched Ava's lips. Of course. I need a personal assistant, and you seem perfectly suitable. By suitable, I assumed she meant looks useless, harmless, and easy to control. So, what would I have to do? I asked, rubbing my hands together obsequiously. Walk my dog, take out my trash, and... She paused, her gaze falling on my game over screen. Perhaps act as a punching bag when I need one. What kind of fresh hell was this job description? But the thought of staying by this Ice Queen side as a broke employee, observing her, maybe even messing with her a little, the blood in my veins started to fizz with excitement. This was way better than any video game. I'll do it. I slapped my thigh with authority. Boss, from this day forward, I'm your man. Ava seemed satisfied with my prompt compliance. She nodded, turned on her heel, and walked out, her stilettos clicking on the floorboards like a symphony of victory. At the door, she paused as if remembering something and tossed a final comment over her shoulder. Oh, right, I forgot to mention. This building, including this hovel you call an apartment, was acquired by my company yesterday. As your new landlady and your new boss, I'm officially informing you that starting tomorrow, your rent is tripled. And with that, she shut the door with a decisive click. I stood frozen in place, the cold business card still clutched in my hand. Starting the game on nightmare mode. This woman wasn't just the Ice Queen. She was the devil. On my first day as Ava Sterling's personal assistant, I learned the true meaning of capitalist cruelty. I was in the middle of an epic dream battle with a mythical beast when my phone rang, tearing me from my slumber. The caller ID read, "The Devil Wears Prada. You have 5 minutes. Get to the apartment across the hall and make me a coffee. Hand ground, Jamaican Blue Mountain. Water at 188 degrees. No sugar, 2 drops of milk." The voice on the other end was devoid of emotion, like a general issuing orders. Across the hall? I shot up in bed. Boss, you live across the hall from me. Is that a problem? No, no problem. I hung up, my head spinning. First my boss, then my landlady, and now my next-door neighbor. She had me completely boxed in. I stumbled across the hall, hair sticking up in every direction, still in my boxers and a faded t-shirt. When the door opened, I was stunned. It was the exact same layout as my dump, but it had been transformed into a minimalist, industrial chic office. A massive floor-to-ceiling window overlooked the city. The floors were spotless, and the air smelled of expensive diffusers and old money. Ava was already at a massive desk, dressed in a silk robe, but tackling files that looked more complex than national security briefings. The morning light softened the edges of her cold face. Done staring? She asked without looking up. The coffee machine is over there. Beans are in the second drawer. If you can't even make a decent cup of coffee, you can get out. I rolled my eyes and walked over to a machine that looked like it cost more than everything I own combined. Hand ground? Jamaican Blue Mountain? 188 degrees. Screw that. I pulled a packet of Folgers instant coffee crystals from my pocket, dumped it into a mug, added some hot water from the dispenser, gave it a quick stir, and placed it in front of her. Boss, your freshly brewed coffee, I said with a bootlicking grin. Ava finally looked up, her eyes landing on the mug in my hand. It was a cheap ceramic thing with "World's Best Dad" printed on the side. She was silent for a full 5 seconds. I swear the air temperature dropped. "This is your hand ground?" she asked, her voice tight. "Yes, boss," I said, standing at attention and spouting nonsense. "It's my proprietary blend, handcrafted with heart. Using the latest in crystallization technology, the beans are pre-ground and lovingly sealed for freshness. Every packet contains the pure, unadulterated spirit of the American worker." The corner of Ava's I twitched. She picked up the mug, took a delicate sip, and set it down without a change in expression. "Sickeningly sweet," she commented. "Just like you. Cheap and artificial." "Okay, touche. You," she pointed to the door. "Go downstairs, bring my car around to the garage, then take these shoes to the cleaners." She kicked a pair of heels out from under her desk. The stilettos were sharp enough to be classified as concealed weapons. A tiny speck of mud marred one of them, probably from her inspection of my hovel yesterday. I recognized the brand. I bought my mom a pair for her last birthday. They had a 5-figure price tag. "Boss, I was about to tell her I didn't have my license on me. It was in my real wallet. My current persona was an undocumented citizen of the state of Illinois." "You what?" She cut me off. "Your $30,000 a month salary isn't for sitting around looking pretty. If you can't even drive a car and run a simple errand, what good are you to me?" "It's $30,000. I corrected. "Is there a difference?" She shot me a look. "It's all the same to me. Now go." I swallowed my pride, grabbed the shoes, and mentally cursed her out 1,000 times. Once outside, I was in a bind. I couldn't drive. Then, an idea struck. I pulled out my phone and found a local man with a van service on TaskRabbit. 10 minutes later, a beat-up Ford Transit van that smelled faintly of old furniture pulled up. I climbed in, clutching the ridiculously expensive heels. "To the fanciest luxury goods restoration place in the city, my good man." The driver looked at me like I had 3 heads. By the time I had dropped off the shoes and taken an Uber back, an hour had passed. When I walked in, Ava had changed into a sharp business dress and was in the middle of a video conference. She was speaking fluent, rapid-fire English, dropping industry jargon that made the 3 suits on the other end of the call look like chastened schoolboys. That commanding, queen-like presence was, I had to admit, kind of captivating. I was watching, slightly mesmerized, when she snapped her laptop shut, ending the meeting. "You're back?" She looked at me. Shoes dropped off. "Yep. Good." She stood up and walked over to me. "Now for your second task." "What is it?" I had a bad feeling about this. She picked up a document from her desk and handed it to me. "Sign this." I took it. Printed across the top in bold letters were the words, "Temporary boyfriend employment agreement." I nearly choked. "Thing. Temporary boyfriend?" I stammered. "Boss, what is this?" "There's a business gala tonight, and an annoying pest I need to get rid of," she said succinctly. "I need a boyfriend to make him give up for good." "Why me?" I asked, pointing at my own nose. She looked me up and down, the disdain in her eyes palpable. "Because you look the least threatening." I got it. I looked like someone she would never, ever actually be interested in. And, she added, "You're cheap." I took a deep breath. "For freedom, for the plan, you can do this, Ethan." I flipped through the agreement. The terms were practically an act of treason against my own dignity. Clause 1. The final right of interpretation belongs to Party A, Avis Sterling. Clause 2. Party B, Ethan Vance, must be on call 24/7. Clause 3. Party B shall not develop any non-professional feelings for Party A. Clause 4. During the performance of his duties, physical contact is subject to additional fees. Hand-holding, $500 per instance. Hugging, $1,000 per instance. Kissing. I couldn't help myself. "Boss, how much for kissing?" Ava's face immediately darkened. "It's not in the agreement, because you won't get the chance." "But what if?" I pressed. "What if it's an emergency and my services are required to sell the performance?" She stared at me, enunciating each word with chilling precision. "If you dare, I will introduce you to the concept of a physical vasectomy." A cold shiver went down my spine. I shut my mouth. "Are you signing or not? If not, get out. I'll find someone else," she said, issuing her ultimatum. "Signing. Of course, I'm signing." I immediately plastered on a fawning smile, grabbed a pen, and signed Ethan Vance with a flourish. I handed the agreement back to her. "So, boss, is the wardrobe for tonight tax deductible?" Ava took the contract without looking at me, pulled a black card from her wallet, and tossed it on the table. Pin is 8, 6 times. Go buy yourself something presentable. Don't embarrass me. And remember, your role for tonight is... My kept man. Try to be convincing. She turned and disappeared into her bedroom, leaving me with nothing but her cold shoulder. I picked up the thin piece of plastic. It felt impossibly heavy. Unbelievable. Ethan Vance, ran away from home to forge my own path, and my first job is being a sugar baby for my own fiancée. This plot was too ridiculous for even the trashiest airport novel. I looked at my ridiculously handsome face in a nearby reflection and sighed. Damn this irresistible charm. If I was going to play a part, I was going to play it to the hilt. Tonight, I was going to give an Oscar-worthy performance of boy toy and drive that devil mad. With Ava's black card in hand, I walked into a high-end menswear boutique I wouldn't normally have given a second glance. The salesman here had noses so high in the air they could smell the balance on your credit card. I deliberately wore my mismatched slide-and slipper combo and swaggered in. As expected, a manager in a tailored suit intercepted me, a practiced, fake smile on his face that didn't reach his wary eyes. Sir, how may I help you? The subtext was clear. Don't touch anything you can't afford. I cleared my throat and adopted the gruff tone of a lottery winner on a shopping spree. Give me your most expensive, most obnoxious, most blindingly flashy suit you've got. The manager's smile froze. I slapped Ava's black card down on the counter with a loud smack. What? Worried I can't pay? My sugar mama's got deep pockets. I've got a party tonight, and I need to be the shiniest dude in the room. Other customers and staff shot me looks of pure contempt. I could hear them whispering, where did that hit come from? Must be some rich cougar's new pet. Perfect. Exactly the effect I was going for. The manager, a true professional, immediately switched to a beaming, enthusiastic smile. Of course, sir. Right this way. Half an hour later, I emerged a new man. I was decked out in a shimmering purple velvet suit. A hot pink pocket square peeked out of the breast pocket. Around my neck was a gold-plated chain thick enough to moor a small boat, a prop, of course, and on my feet were a pair of pointy-toed leather shoes encrusted with rhinestones. I admired my reflection. This was the textbook definition of a kept man. Tacky, loud, and utterly tasteless. It was perfect. At 7 p.m., I pulled up to the entrance of the five-star hotel Ava had designated in a rented, beat-up Honda Civic covered in knockoff streetwear stickers. The moment I stepped out in my Jersey Shore wannabe attire, all eyes were on me. The valets looked like they were about to have me forcibly removed. Just then, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided silently to a stop beside me. The door opened, and Ava emerged. She was wearing a stunning, backless black evening gown, her hair swept up to reveal the elegant curve of a neck. Her expression was the usual stay away, but her powerful aura instantly made her the center of attention. Her eyes went from my Civic to me, and I saw a vain pulse in her temple. Ethan, she said through clenched teeth, is this your idea of a surprise? I flicked a strand of my yellow-streaked hair out of my eyes and gave her a wink. What do you think, babe? My threads, you're eyed. It's a beautiful contrast, don't you think? The word babe made her visibly flinch. She took a deep, steadying breath, as if resisting the urge to strangle me. She walked to my side, took my arm, and whispered in a voice only I could hear, once we are inside, you will keep your mouth shut. If you say one wrong word, you know the consequences. Loud and clear, my generous benefactor, I replied with a cheeky grin. On the arm of the most beautiful woman in the room, I, Ethan Vance, in my new role as a bona fide boy toy, strode proudly into the glittering ballroom. The moment we entered, a man with slick back hair and a smug face intercepted us. Ava, you finally made it. And this is... The man's eyes were full of hostility as he sized me up. My boyfriend, Ethan, Ava said coolly, her grip on my arm tightening. Boyfriend? The man let out a short, derisive laugh, his gaze sweeping over my tacky suit. Ava, when did your taste become so unique? My taste is not your concern. Ava's voice turned to ice. Chadwick, if you'll excuse us. I recognized this guy. Chadwick Chad, Kensington III, heir to the Kensington fortune. A notorious playboy who had been chasing Ava for years. So this was tonight's target. Chad, however, wasn't giving up. He blocked our path and addressed me directly. Mr. Vance, is it? And what is it that you do? Here we go. The classic background check. Before I could answer, Ava cut in. He doesn't have a job. I support him. Those 5 words, delivered so casually, landed like a bomb. The surrounding guests turned to stare, their expressions a mix of shock, disdain, and amusement. Chad's face turned a shade of crimson. Ava, what's that supposed to mean? You'd rather be with this piece of trash than accept me? That's right, Ava said without even looking at him. At least he's younger than you. And more obedient. Ouch. Right for the jugular. I played my part, leaning against Ava dramatically. It's true, I cooed. My baby takes the best care of me. Whatever she says goes. Not like some people who just can't take a hint. You. Chad was shaking with rage, pointing a finger at me. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm your worst nightmare, pal. Whoops, wrong line. I quickly switched to a wounded expression and hid behind Ava. Babe, he's scaring me. I could have sworn I saw the corner of Ava's mouth twitch. She stepped in front of me like a protective mother hen. Not that she'd ever admit it, her eyes fixed on Chad. Kensington, I'm warning you. He's my man. If you disrespect him again, don't expect me to be civil with your family. Your man. Chad laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Fine. Your man. Ava, you're going to regret this. He stormed off. Crisis averted. Ava immediately let go of my arm, as if I were contaminated, and even took out a sanitary wipe to clean her hand. Not bad, she said, her face a blank mask. You have a talent for acting. Well, I aim to please, I said, sidling up to her. So, boss, my performance just now was pretty top-notch, right? Does that mean I get a bonus? The hand-holding fee, perhaps? Get lost, she hissed. I was about to tease her further when a sickly sweet voice came from behind us. Well, if it isn't Ava Sterling, bringing such unique company to an event like this. I turned to see a woman in a red dress, smirking at us over her wine glass. Ava's expression darkened. Tiffany Blair. My business is none of yours. Tiffany Blair. I knew the name. Ava's arch-rival in the tech world, the VP of Stellar Solutions. Tiffany giggled, her eyes raking over me. Don't be so defensive, Ava. I'm just curious what kind of man could possibly catch your eye. What was the name? Ethan, I said before Ava could, puffing out my chest to make my fake gold chain gleam. And my profession is arm candy. Tiffany burst out laughing. Arm candy? Mama, your tastes really are unexpected, Ava. Better than someone who enjoys picking through the garbage. Ava shot back. Tiffany's smile vanished, the barb clearly hitting its mark. Just then, the lights in the ballroom dimmed, and a spotlight hit the stage. The MC announced that the dancing was about to begin. A sly look came over Tiffany's face. She turned to me. Ethan, since you're Ava's date, you must be a fabulous dancer. May I have the honor? She was trying to publicly humiliate me. All eyes were on us. Ava's face was like stone. She knew there was no way her $30,000 a month assistant would know how to ballroom dance. I looked at Tiffany's challenging smirk, then at Ava's tense expression. This was getting interesting. I smiled, gave Tiffany a perfect, gentlemanly bow, and said, Of course, my lady. However, I turned, took Ava's hand, and pulled her in my arms. My first dance tonight belongs to my one and only benefactor. To the shock of everyone in the room, I swept a stunned Ava Sterling onto the dance floor. The orchestra began a classic waltz. I put my arm around Ava's waist. She was as stiff as a board. Ethan, are you insane? I don't know how to do this, she hissed. Relax, babe, I whispered, my breath warm against her ear. Just follow my lead. Please. I'm Ethan Vance. My childhood was a blur of elite private lessons. Horseback riding, fencing, golf, and yes, ballroom dancing. She wanted to see me make a fool of myself? Not a chance. I guided her through the steps, spinning her with the music. At first, she was clumsy, stepping on my feet multiple times. But she was Ava Sterling. She was a quick study. Within a minute, she had the rhythm down. She was still tense, but she was following my lead. I didn't know you could do this, she said, a note of surprise in her voice. There's a lot you don't know about me, I murmured as I led her through an elegant turn. For instance, I'd never let my woman be embarrassed in public. Ava's body tensed, and she looked up at me. Under the soft, romantic lighting of the ballroom, the ice in her eyes seemed to melt just for a second. We were so close I could smell the faint scent of her shampoo and see the tiny, almost invisible hairs on her cheek. She seemed flustered, her eyes darting away as a faint blush colored her cheeks. "You talk too much," she muttered, but her body relaxed in my hold, her steps becoming more fluid. The crowd was mesmerized. Chad and Tiffany looked like they'd swallowed lemons. They'd expected a circus act and instead got a performance worthy of a professional. My ridiculous purple suit, in the whirl of the dance, actually took on a kind of bizarre, flamboyant charm against her elegant black dress. As the music ended, I dipped her low in a dramatic finish. The ballroom erupted in applause. "So, boss," I whispered as I helped her up, "was that worth a month's salary?" Ava didn't answer. She just stared at me, her expression unreadable. Just then, a photographer, probably hired by Tiffany, ambushed us with a barrage of flashes. The bright light was blinding. I instinctively turned to shield Ava. And Ava, maybe dizzy from the spinning or unsteady on her heels, lost her footing and tumbled right into me. I reached out to catch her. The result was a scene straight out of rom-com. In front of the entire gala, with dozens of cameras flashing, I, the kept man, and Ava Sterling, the ice queen of Silicon Valley, ended up in a tangled, ridiculously compromising heap on the floor. To be precise, she was on top of me. I'd taken the brunt of the fall, my body serving as her personal airbag. Her face was inches from mine. Her warm breath tickled my lips. Her hand was pressed against my chest. My back was screaming in protest from the impact. The entire ballroom was dead silent. Ava was clearly rebooting. Her eyes were wide with shock, confusion, and a hint of panic. I managed to croak out, "Boss, you think you could get up any longer, and this temporary boyfriend is going to be permanently disabled?" My words snapped her out of her trance. Her face flushed a deep crimson, a color I'd never seen on her before. She looked less like a fearsome CEO and more like a startled kitten. She scrambled off me, frantically smoothing down her dress, refusing to meet my eyes. "It was an accident. Just an accident," she stammered to the onlookers. The cameras were still flashing furiously. I could already see the headlines. Ice Queen CEO's secret lover revealed in passionate ballroom tumble. I pushed myself off the floor, rubbing my aching back, and went to her side. "So, is this considered a workplace injury? Does my health insurance cover this?" I whispered. She shot me a look that said, "Say one more word and I will end you." Then she grabbed my hand and, under the bewildered stares of the entire room, dragged me out of the ballroom. The ride back in a Rolls-Royce was so awkward you could have cut the tension with a knife. Ava stared out the window, silent, but the tight line of her jaw and the faint pink of her ears gave away her inner turmoil. "Hey," I said, breaking the silence. "Thanks for tonight." "Thank for what?" she snapped. "For choosing me," I said. "Otherwise, some other poor schmuck's back would be broken right now." I thought I heard a tiny snore of laughter. When I looked over, her face was a mask of indifference again. "Ethan," she said suddenly, her voice serious. "Tonight was just an act. Don't get any ideas." Of course," I said, holding on my hands in surrender. "My lips are sealed. We have a purely professional employer-employee relationship." She still looked unconvinced. "Especially that accident. If you breathe a word of it to anyone." I get it. I said quickly. "I'm a vault. So, boss, about my stellar performance tonight. Dancer, human shield. Think we could discuss that bonus." The temperature in the car dropped another 20 degrees. "Don't even think about it," Ava said through gritted teeth, closing her eyes and feigning sleep. I wisely kept my mouth shut for the rest of the ride. When we got back to our building, Ava stopped me before I could get out of the car. "Be at my place at 7 a.m. sharp tomorrow. I have an important assignment for you." "What is it?" She glanced at me, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. "My mother is coming for a surprise inspection." So, the fake boyfriend saga was getting a sequel. Watching her hurry away, I touched my lips. I could almost still feel the warmth of her breath. This game was getting more and more fun. I had severely underestimated the speed of modern media. By the time I woke up the next morning, my phone had already been bombarded with so many notifications it had shut itself down. I plugged it in and turned it back on. The group chat with my best friends, Leo, Noah, and Sam, had over 99 new messages. "Leo, at Ethan, dude, you're famous." You gotta see this. You run away from a wedding and still manage to cause this much chaos. Noah saw the pics. Form was excellent. The purple suit, though, questionable choice. Which sugar mama is corrupting your fashion sense? Sam, I've had my people try to kill the story, but it's everywhere. Your dad is going to see this. Be careful. I clicked the link they sent. Tech Empress Ava Sterling's secret romance exposed. Mystery man's identity unknown after passionate gala tumble. The accompanying photos were high-resolution shots of me and Ava waltzing and our subsequent passionate tumble. The photographer had gotten a crystal-clear shot of my face. I was so screwed. My face might be unknown to the general public, but in our circle, it was instantly recognizable. If my father saw this, he'd send an army to drag me home. As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Ava. Did you see it? She sounded exhausted and annoyed. I saw it, I said wearily. Looks like we're famous, boss. Shut up, she snapped. Get over to my apartment. Now. My mother is already downstairs. I flew out of bed and across the hall, not even bothering to brush my teeth. A regal-looking woman with an air of sophisticated judgment was sitting on the sofa, scrutinizing Ava. This had to be the infamous mother-in-law. Ava shot me a look that screamed, "Play along, or you're fired." I immediately pasted on a polite, harmless smile, grabbing a bag of trash by the door as a prop. "Hello, ma'am," I said meekly. "I'm Ethan, Ava's boyfriend." Her mother's eyes were like scalpels, dissecting me. "So, you're Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "And where do you work?" Here it comes. The interrogation. Before I could invent a job, Ava jumped in. "Mom, he's between jobs right now. He's staying with me temporarily." "Between jobs? Staying with you?" Her mother's brow furrowed. "Ava, what is the meaning of this? A daughter of the Sterling family cannot be involved with an unemployed freeloader." "Mom," Ava's tone sharpened. "This is my life. Stay out of it." "Stay out of it? I'm your mother," her mother retorted. "That runaway groom. The Vance boy, at least he comes from a good family. But this. She seemed to be at a loss for words to describe my pathetic existence. This was perfect. I decided to add more fuel to the fire. I walked over to Ava and started rubbing her shoulders. "Ma'am, please don't blame Ava. It's my fault. I'm not good enough for her. But we're truly in love. I would do anything for her. I'd even take her last name." The last part hit her mother like a lightning bolt. Her face went from pale to red to purple. Ava looked horrified. She pinched my side hard. "Mom, don't listen to him," Ava said quickly. "Truly in love." Her mother sneered. "With what? His charming personality? Do you have any idea how much money she makes a minute? Do you know she barely sleeps 4 hours a night for her company? What can you possibly do for her?" I was momentarily stumped. "I can make her happy," I blurted out. A stroke of genius. I then turned to Ava and gave her my biggest, brightest, and dumbest-looking grin. Ava was speechless. Her mother was speechless. The silence was deafening. Just then, Ava's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, her expression shifting, and stepped away to take the call. "What?" "Okay, I'm on my way." She hung up, her face grim. "Mom, there's an emergency at the office. I have to go." Go. Work is important." Her mother waved her off dismissively, then pointed at me. "You, stay. I want to have a word with you." My heart skipped a beat. Was this it? The "here's a check for $5 million. Now, get away from my daughter" scene? I was kind of looking forward to it. Ava gave me a worried look. I gave her a reassuring one back. After she left, the atmosphere in the room grew heavy. Her mother, Eleanor, took a sip of tea and cut right to the chase. "Name your price. How much to leave my daughter?" "Here we go." I rubbed my hands together in glee and held up 5 fingers. Eleanor scoffed. 500,000? You have a big appetite." I shook my head. 5 million, she raised an eyebrow. I kept shaking my head. Her expression darkened. "Don't be greedy. 50 million is my final offer. Take the money and disappear from this city." I sighed dramatically and lowered my hand. "Ma'am, you misunderstand. My love for Ava is priceless. It cannot be measured in money." Eleanor was stunned. She'd clearly never encountered a boy toy who didn't follow the script. I continued my performance. "I know in your eyes, I'm worthless, but I will prove to you that I can make Ava happy. I will work hard, I will." "Enough," she cut me off. "Spare me the platitudes. Since you don't want money, let's talk about something more practical. She pulled a file from her purse and tossed it on the table. This is a dossier on the real Ethan Vance, the runaway groom. My blood ran cold, but I kept my face impassive as I picked it up. It was a detailed file on me, my hobbies, my habits, even some of my most embarrassing secrets. The time I wet the bed at age 10. The time I got caught passing a note to the prettiest girl in my middle school class. Who the hell was her private investigator? They knew me better than I knew myself. Ava's engagement to the Vance boy was arranged by her grandfather. It can't be easily broken, Eleanor explained. Now that he's disappeared, the Vance family is furious. They've threatened to pull all their investment from Nexus if he's not found within a month. Perfect. Let them pull their investments. It would be a devastating blow to Ava's company, Eleanor said, her tone grave. So, I need you to do me a favor. Me? I asked, pointing to myself. What can I do? Her eyes narrowed. I need you to impersonate Ethan Vance. I choked on the water I just sipped, spraying it all over her expensive coffee table. Impersonate myself. What kind of bizarre world plot twist was this? I looked at her completely serious face and felt like I'd fallen down a rabbit hole. Ma'am, are you feeling okay? I asked, reaching out to check her forehead. Get your filthy hands off me, she snapped. I'm perfectly fine. Fine? She wanted me to impersonate myself. This was next-level insanity. Why me? I asked, bewildered. Because of your face, she said, pointing at me, then at the ID photo in the file. There's a 60-70% resemblance. And your name is Ethan Vance. His name is Ethan Vance. It's fate. It's my damn name. Most importantly, she added, a calculating look in her eye, you're cheap, and easy to control. So that was her plan. She was desperate and needed a puppet to placate the Vance family. And I, the broke, freeloading boy toy, was the perfect candidate. Ma'am, this is fraud. If we get caught, I said, feigning panic. No risk, no reward, she said calmly. If you succeed, I'll give you this much. She held up one finger. 1 million. I guessed. She shook her head, a smirk on her face. 10 million. Enough for someone like you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. 10 million? To play myself, this was the deal of a lifetime. My inner drama queen was roaring to life. What could be more entertaining than directing my own The Prince and the Pauper saga? But I don't know anything about being rich, I said, feigning reluctance. What if I mess up? Don't worry about that. She pulled another thick file from her purse. This is everything you need to know about Ethan Vance. His mannerisms, his hobbies, his relationships. You have 3 days to memorize it all. Then, you'll meet with a representative from the Vance family. I took the file, my own life's instruction manual. I flipped through it. Holy crap. It even knows if I prefer boxers or briefs. I exclaimed. Eleanor's face darkened. Watch your language. From now on, you are Ethan Vance, heir to the Vance Holdings fortune. You need to start acting like it. She stood up and began my crash course in being an aristocrat. Posture straight. Don't fidget. Speak slowly with authority. Don't avert your gaze. You must project an air of disdain for the common rabble. As she coached me, I was laughing internally. Lady, I was born aristocrat. The disdain you want me to fake? I practically invented it. The next 3 days were a living hell of method acting. I was up at 6 a.m. every day, memorizing my life story. In the mornings, an etiquette coach taught me which fork to use, how to swing a golf club, and how to curse someone out in 3 different languages without using a single swear word. In the afternoons, a personal trainer put me through grueling workouts to sculpt my lazy body into something more befitting an heir. At night, I had to practice Ethan Vance's signature expressions in the mirror. A pensive 45-degree upward gaze, and a smirk that was 3 parts cool indifference, 3 parts mockery, and 4 parts effortless superiority. I was on the verge of developing multiple personality disorder. Ava would come home from work to find me being tortured. Mom, isn't this a bit much? She'd said one evening, watching the etiquette coach wrap my knuckles with a ruler. Nonsense, Eleanor had retorted. To fool those old foxes at Vance Holdings, he has to be perfect. Later that night, Ava silently handed me a tube of muscle rub. Does it hurt? She asked, a flicker of something in her eyes. What do you think? I said, wincing as I rolled my sore neck. This is definitely a workplace injury. I'm gonna need a raise. My mother promised you 10 million, she said flatly. That's the impersonation fee, I argued. This is for pain and suffering. They're two different things. Look at me, I'm wasting away. She glanced at me. Good, you'll look better on camera. This woman was heartless. 3 days later, it was showtime. Eleanor had me fitted for a ridiculously expensive Armani suit. A stylist tamed my unruly hair. When I looked in the mirror, even I was taken aback. The man staring back at me looked every bit the part. Handsome, confident, with an innate air of privilege that couldn't be faked. Not bad. Eleanor nodded, satisfied. You'll do. The meeting was at an exclusive, private club. Representing the Vance family was my uncle, Marcus Vance, a two-faced, ambitious snake who'd been trying to undermine my father for years. Remember, say as little as possible. Let me do the talking, Eleanor instructed before we went in. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door to the private room. Marcus was sitting there, sipping tea. When he saw me, his eyes widened in surprise and suspicion. Ethan, he said, testing the name. Following the script, I didn't answer immediately. I gave him a cold, dismissive look, walked to the opposite side of the table, and poured myself a cup of tea. The move was pure, rebellious, prodigal son. Even Eleanor looked impressed. Uncle, it's been a while, I said, my voice calm but commanding. Marcus was clearly thrown off. He studied my face, searching for a flaw in the performance. You, where have you been? Your father has been worried sick, he said, feigning concern. Just getting some fresh air, I said, leaning back and crossing my legs. This family can be so suffocating. Nonsense. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. Do you have any idea how much your little stunt has cost the company? Our deal with Nexus Dynamics was almost. Oh, really? I cut him off with my signature smirk. Because I heard that in my absence, you've been quite active on the board. The color drained from Marcus's face. He hadn't expected the puppet to talk back. What are you talking about? He stammered. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, I said, standing up and leaning over him. I whispered in his ear, my father may be getting old, but my eyes are wide open. I know who the snakes in the company are. I straightened up, adjusted my suit, and turned to a stunned Eleanor. Mrs. Sterling, shall we? The air in here is rather foul. And with that, I walked out, leaving my uncle pale and speechless. Outside the club, Eleanor stared at me as if I were an alien. You, just now, she stammered. I dropped the act and grinned. So, ma'am, how was my performance? Oscar-worthy, right? Eleanor didn't smile. She just stared, her eyes full of shock and a hint of fear. She couldn't comprehend how the broke boy toy she'd picked up could so thoroughly dominate a seasoned corporate predator like Marcus Vance. I hid a smirk. Performance? Sorry, lady. That was just me being myself. My debut as the fake heir was a roaring success. To make our cover more convincing, Eleanor decreed that I had to move in with Ava. What? Ava, and I shouted in unison. Mom, that's completely inappropriate, Ava argued. My apartment is full of confidential company documents. I don't care. Eleanor was adamant. From now on, he is your fiancé. Living together is perfectly normal. It's settled. And just like that, I was packing my meager belongings, mostly my gaming console and keyboard, and moving into Ava's penthouse apartment. The place was insane. Smart home, everything, floor-to-ceiling windows with a panoramic view of the city, even an indoor heated pool. The decadent life of a capitalist. I muttered. Ava ignored me and slapped another printed document on the counter. If we're going to live together, there are rules, she said coldly. Sign. I picked it up. Cohabitation Safety and Conduct Agreement. The terms were even more insane than the last contract. 1. Party B, Ethan, is restricted to the guest room and common areas. Entry into the master bedroom or study is strictly prohibited. 2. Party B must shower daily and maintain personal hygiene. 3. Key clause. A minimum safe distance of 5 feet must be maintained between both parties at all times when no third party is present. All forms of unnecessary physical contact are forbidden. Wait a minute, I said, pointing at the third clause. 5 feet. Are you going to be carrying a tape measure? What happens if we accidentally bump into each other? Is there a fine? Try it and find out, she said, her eyes like daggers. I wisely continued reading. A final clause in bold stated. Party A, Ava, reserves the final right of interpretation and can amend these terms at any time. This is a tyrannical contract. I protested. You can choose not to live here, she said, crossing her arms. I'll sign, I said immediately, grabbing a pen. Free rent in a penthouse. I wasn't an idiot. After I signed, Ava pointed me to a room down the hall. That's your room. Now go wash the filth off yourself. My room was bigger than my entire old apartment. After a long, hot shower, I emerged to find Ava on the sofa, laptop open, still working. She had changed into a silk pajamas set, her hair down, looking softer and less intimidating. There's food in the fridge, she said without looking up. Clean up after yourself. I opened the fridge. It was stocked with gourmet food, Evian water, and a dozen pints of Häagen-Dazs. I grabbed a pint of vanilla, sat on the opposite sofa, and started a conversation. Aren't you scared living in this huge place all by yourself? Scared of what? Ghosts. I am a ghost. Okay, I tried again. So what do you do for fun? Besides work. Work? Besides work. Over time, talking to her was like talking to a brick wall. I finished my ice cream, washed the spoon, and came back to find her asleep on the sofa, her laptop still on her lap. Her brow was furrowed, as if she were having a stressful dream. She looked vulnerable. For the first time, I saw past the Ice Queen persona to the tired woman underneath. On impulse, I grabbed a throw blanket and gently draped it over her. As I leaned over, her eyes snapped open. She stared at me, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm. What do you think you're doing? She yelped, clutching the blanket and scrambling to the far end of the sofa. Nothing, I said, holding on my hands. You fell asleep. I was just covering you so you wouldn't get cold. A blush crept up her neck. I don't need your help. Okay, my bad, I said. I violated the 5-foot rule. I'll go to my room now. She practically fled to her bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I went to my room, a smile on my face. This woman was like a porcupine, all sharp quills on the outside. Lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Just a wall separated me from my fiancée. This whole situation was surreal. Late that night, I heard a faint creak. I peeked out my door and saw Ava tiptoeing to the kitchen. She pulled a giant tub of vanilla Häagen-Dazs from the freezer, sat on the floor, and began eating it with a look of pure, blissful contentment on her face. She looked like a kid who had successfully stolen a cookie from the cookie jar. I almost laughed out loud. So this was the real Ava Sterling. A secret, late-night ice cream addict. This cohabitation was going to be more interesting than I thought. Our strange cohabitation continued. By day, I was her on-call assistant and fake fiancé. By night, we were roommates who strictly adhered to the 5-foot rule. But things were slowly changing. She stopped complaining when I used her fancy coffee machine to make my instant coffee. She let me use the giant TV for my gaming sessions, as long as I wore headphones. And her late-night ice cream binges became more frequent. One day, it was clear that Nexus Dynamics was in trouble. Ava locked herself in her study, her voice sharp and angry on conference calls. She finally emerged late at night, looking utterly defeated. She poured herself a large glass of whiskey and drank half of it in one gulp. Hey, take it easy, I said, handing her a glass of water. She ignored it, staring out at the city lights. Ethan, she said, her voice hoarse, do you think I made a mistake? A mistake with what? I built Nexus from the ground up, she said, more to herself than to me. It's my baby. I gave up everything for it. I have no friends, no hobbies, no life. And now, it's facing a crisis. A crucial microchip patent was acquired by our rival, Stellar Solutions. Without it, our next product line is worthless. Stellar Solutions, Tiffany Blair's company. So, get it back, I suggested. She gave a bitter laugh. Easier said than done. Tiffany is demanding an astronomical price. She wants to ruin me. She downed the rest of her whiskey and poured another. The alcohol was hitting her hard. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes glassy. I can't lose, she murmured, swaying on her feet. I rushed forward and caught her as she stumbled. Boss, you're drunk. Let me help you to bed. I'm not drunk. She slurred, her arms draped around my neck. The full weight of her body was pressed against mine. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ava, snap out of it, I said, gently patting her cheek. She blinked, her eyes struggling to focus on my face. Then she smiled. It was a rare, beautiful sight, like a glacier cracking to reveal a hidden spring. "You're actually kind of handsome," she whispered, her fingers tracing my eyebrows, my nose, and finally my lips. My whole body went rigid. "It's just, your mouth is so annoying," she mumbled. "Always, pissing me off." Then her head lolled onto my shoulder, and she was fast asleep. Did I just get hit on by a drunk CEO? I carefully lifted her into my arms. She was surprisingly light. I carried her to her bedroom, a stark, minimalist space, just like her, and laid her on the bed. I took off her shoes, pulled the covers over her, and was about to leave when she grabbed my hand. Her eyes were open again, hazy and unfocused. "Don't go," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere," I said softly. "Liar," she muttered. "All men are liars." And with that, she pulled. I lost my balance and fell onto the bed beside her, our faces inches apart. Before I could react, she leaned in. A soft, cold, whiskey-flavored kiss landed on my lips. My brain exploded. It was a clumsy, innocent kiss, but it sent an electric shock straight to my heart. A few seconds later, she pulled back, sighed contentedly, and fell asleep again. She kissed me and passed out. I lay there, stunned, the ghost of her lips still on mine. What the hell just happened? I finally managed to get up, tuck her in properly, and leave, closing the door softly behind me. Back in my own room, I couldn't sleep. I touched my lips, the memory of the kiss still vivid. That night, I dreamed of a world with no contracts and no 5-foot rules. The next morning, Ava emerged from her room looking pale and hungover. "Morning," I said casually. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Last night, you got wasted," I said straight-faced. "You grabbed my leg, called me your long-lost brother, and sobbed for an hour. My pants are still in the laundry." She stared at me, horrified. "Really?" "Yep," I said, pushing a plate of eggs toward her. "Now eat." She was so mortified she could barely look at me all day. That afternoon, our awkward peace was shattered by the doorbell. I opened it to find Chad Kensington, holding a giant bouquet of roses. "I'm here to see Ava," he said, trying to push past me. "She's busy," I said, blocking his way. "I know she's here," he insisted, forcing his way into the apartment. Ava, I know you're in there." The study door opened, and Ava appeared, her face a mask of cold fury. "Chad, what are you doing here?" "Ava," he said, his voice sickeningly sweet. "I heard about your trouble with Stellar Solutions. Just say the word, and I'll have my father buy them out and get you that patent." Ava didn't even glance at the flowers. "I don't need your help. Please leave." "Ava, why are you doing this?" he pleaded. "What does this boy toy have that I don't? That's none of your business. I don't believe you actually like him." Chad's voice rose in desperation. He lunged forward, trying to grab her arm. I stepped between them. "Hey, back off, pal." "You," Chad snarled, swinging a punch at me. I easily dodged it. I might play the part of slacker, but I've been taking martial arts since I was a kid. He came at me again, but this time, Ava moved faster. She threw herself in front of me, her arms spread wide. "Chad, don't you dare touch him," she yelled. Chad's fist stopped an inch from her face. We were all frozen. I stared at her back, a strange warmth spreading through my chest. This woman, who treated me like a nuisance, was protecting me. "Ava, you," Chad stammered. "That's right," she said, her voice shaking but firm. She turned, looked me straight in the eye, and did something completely unexpected. She stood on her toes, wrapped her arms around my neck, and kissed me. This was not the clumsy, drunken kiss from the night before. This was a kiss of defiance, a declaration of war. My brain went blank. I wrapped my arms around her waist and kissed her back. Chad's roses fell to the floor, his face ashen. After a long moment, Ava pulled away, her face flushed, her eyes blazing. She turned back to a shattered Chad. "Now do you understand?" she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "He's my man." Then she grabbed my hand and dragged me into her study, slamming and locking the door behind us, leaving Chad alone in the wreckage of his romantic ambitions. The moment the door was locked, Ava dropped my hand like a hot potato and went to stare out the window, her back to me. I could see the reflection of her crimson ears in the glass. That That was just an act, she said, her voice unsteady. Don't get the wrong idea. I get it, I said, leaning against the door, a slow smile spreading across my face. Emergency situation. All part of the job description. So, does this one count for the bonus? Ethan, she spun around, furious. Is money all you ever think about? Nope, I said. I also think about you. Her face turned an even deeper shade of red. You're impossible, she muttered, turning back to the window. The air in the room was thick with unspoken tension. So, I guess Chad's gone, I said, breaking the silence. Yes, she mumbled. You know, I said, I could have handled him. She was quiet for a moment. I didn't want you to get into trouble for me, she said softly. My heart warmed. This prickly, difficult woman actually cared. Just then, my phone began to vibrate violently. I looked at the screen, and my blood ran cold. The caller ID, the old man. My father. How'd he get this number? I silenced the call, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. What's wrong? Ava asked, noticing my pale face. Nothing. Spam cool, elite. The phone rang again. This time it was my best friend, Leo. I ducked into a corner to answer. Leo, what's up? Ethan, run. Leo's voice was frantic. Your dad somehow got the security footage from your building. He saw you and Ava. He's on his way over there right now, with a team of his guys. You've got maybe 5 minutes. Crap. Just get out of there. I'll try to stall him. Leo hung up. What is it? Ava asked, her voice laced with concern. No time to explain. We have to go. Now. I grabbed her hand. Go where? Out the window. She looked at me like I was insane. We're on the 30th floor. The fire escape? There isn't one. Then, what do we do? I was starting to panic. Just then, the doorbell rang. We both froze. Through the security camera, we could see a line of men in black suits, led by a stern, imposing man. My father, Robert Vance. I felt my knees go weak. Who is that? Ava whispered. The repo man, I said miserably. This was it. I was dead. Not only was my life of freedom over, but my entire cover was about to be blown. Ava and her mother would think I was a con artist. The doorbell chimed again, a death knell. Then, my eyes landed on a ridiculously large, ornate vase in the corner of the living room. I have an idea, I whispered, dragging Ava behind it. What are you doing? Hiding, I said, shoving her into the narrow gap between the vase and the wall, then squeezing in after her. It was a tight fit. Our bodies were pressed together, and I could feel her heart racing against my chest. Don't move, she breathed, her face buried in my shirt. Not much choice. I whimpered. My father's voice boomed from outside. Ethan, you coward. I know you're in there. Open this door. There was a loud thud against the door. He was actually trying to break it down. Ava stiffened. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with confusion. Why? Why did he call you Ethan? Crap. Think, Ethan, think. Coincidence. I whispered frantically. It's a common name. Is it? She said, clearly unconvinced. Bang. The door shuttered. Ethan, Ava whispered, panicked. What is going on? Just as I was about to confess everything, another voice cut through the chaos. Stop this at once. It was Eleanor, Ava's mother. Who are you people? She demanded, her voice dripping with disdain. Do you have any idea whose apartment this is? And you are? My father's voice was wary. I am Ava Sterling's mother, Eleanor. Ah, the mother-in-law, my father's tone softened slightly. I'm looking for my delinquent son, Ethan. He's in there. Your son? Eleanor laughed. The only man in there is my daughter's fiancé. Her fiancé? That's right, Eleanor said proudly. His name is also Ethan, but he is 100 times the man your irresponsible son is. Behind a vase, I was speechless. My God, this was a mess. What's that supposed to mean? My father's voice was dangerously low. It means your son wasn't good enough for my daughter, Eleanor retorted. She has found someone better. As for the marriage contract between our families, consider it void. Void, my father roared. Eleanor, your father came to me, begging for this union. You can't just back out now. Times have changed, Robert, Eleanor said coolly. Your son is no longer worthy of my Ava. Behind a vase, Ava looked as stunned as I felt. Fine, my father yelled. Let me see this man who is 100 times better than my son. The banging on the door resumed. Stop it, Eleanor shrieked. Robert Vance, if you don't leave now, I'm calling the police. The two of them were at a stalemate. I had to do something. An idea, crazy as it was, began to form in my mind. I leaned close to Ava's ear. Listen to me, I whispered. No matter what I say or do next, just play along. What are you going to do? I didn't answer. I took a deep breath and shouted, Everyone just stop. The noise outside ceased. Ava, open the door, I said. Are you crazy? Trust me. She hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, she walked to the door and opened it. The hallway was a scene of chaos. My father and his bodyguards on one side, Eleanor on the other. All eyes were on Ava. Then, I stepped out from behind her. The world stopped. My father stared at me, his jaw on the floor. He was probably wondering why I looked exactly like the boy toy from the gossip columns. I ignored him, put a protective arm around Ava, and faced my father with a smirk. Sir, I said, my voice cool and steady. Don't you think it's a little early to be causing a scene outside my home? Your home, my father stammered. That's right, I said, pulling Ava closer. I'm Ethan, Ava's man, and this is our home. My father's face was a storm of emotions. You know, I think I've heard of you, I said, tapping my chin thoughtfully. You're Robert Vance, right? Chairman of Vance Holdings? My mother-in-law mentioned you. Said you had a son, also named Ethan, who ran away from his own wedding. My father's face was turning a fascinating shade of purple. Anyway, I said, deciding to end the charade, I know why you're really here. It's about the Stellar Solutions patent, isn't it? Everyone, including Ava, stared at me in shock. Tiffany Blair wouldn't have the guts to challenge Nexus without your family backing her. I continued, my eyes locked on my father's. I know it was my Uncle Marcus's idea. A power play to pressure the Sterlings into a more favorable marriage contract. My father's face paled. But, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, he made one mistake. He messed with my woman. I looked down at Ava with a look of pure devotion, then back at my father. So, here are your options. 1. You have Stellar Solutions transfer the patent to Nexus, no strings attached, and you cut all ties with them for the next 3 years. Or 2. I smiled. I let my mother-in-law call the cops and the media. Billionaire Chairman Bully's future in-laws. I think I would make for a great headline, don't you? The hallway was silent. My father stared at me, a complex mix of fury and disbelief in his eyes. Finally, he spoke, his voice ragged. You win. He shot me one last, murderous glare, then turned to his men. We're leaving. As they retreated, I turned to face Ava and her mother. 3 pairs of eyes were staring at me, all asking the same question. Who are you? I looked at Ava, a sheepish grin on my face. Okay, so, I'm not exactly broke. I'm the illegitimate son of a billionaire. I was raised in an orphanage and just recently found by my father. He wanted to use me as a pawn in this arranged marriage, but I refused and ran away. This, I concluded, was a much more dramatic and believable lie. It worked. Eleanor's disdain for me morphed into a kind of sympathetic pity. Ava just looked stunned. So, you really are Robert Vance's son? She asked, once we were alone in her study. The real Ethan Vance is your half-brother. That's right, I said, my voice thick with fake emotion. He had everything, and I had nothing. My father found me, said he was dying, and wanted me to inherit everything, but only if I married you in my brother's place. Ava's expression softened. I could see the ice in her eyes melting. Why didn't you just tell me? I was afraid you'd look down on me, I said, my voice a pathetic whisper. I wanted to win you over on my own terms, not with my father's money. She was completely silent, her gaze searching my face. In the days that followed, my status in the apartment skyrocketed. Eleanor started treating me like a beloved son. Ava's attitude towards me became gentle. The 5-foot rule was forgotten. And, true to my word, my father forced Stellar Solutions to hand over the patent. Ava's company was saved. That night, she opened a bottle of wine to celebrate. Ethan, thank you, she said, her cheeks flushed. For what? For coming into my life. My heart skipped a beat. The next day, I decided to give her a real present. I used one of my anonymous offshore accounts and a few $100 million to completely gut Stellar Solutions stock value. I bought out their suppliers and left them in financial ruin. It was a beautiful, elegant act of corporate sabotage. Then, I took the black card Ava had given me and bought her a $3,000 Christian Louboutin lipstick. When I gave it to her that evening, she was delighted. Why the gift? To celebrate your victory, I grinned. She smiled, a genuine, happy smile. Then her phone buzzed. A text alert from her bank. She glanced at it, and the smile on her face vanished. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a cold, sharp disappointment. Ethan, where did you get the money for this? Oh crap, I had forgotten. The black card was a supplementary card. She got an alert for every purchase. Did you? Her voice trembled. Did you steal my credit card? You gotta be kidding me. I orchestrate a multi-million-dollar corporate takedown for her, and she doesn't notice. I buy her a $3,000 lipstick with her own card, and she thinks I'm a thief? No, listen, I can explain. Explain what? She said, backing away from me, her eyes glistening with tears. Explain how you got my PIN? Explain why you lied to me. I remembered then that I'd never returned the card after I bought the suit. The PIN was easy, 6/8. I didn't steal it. You gave it to me, I forgot to give it back. Forgot? She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. I actually believed you. I thought you were different, but you're just like all the rest, obsessed with money. Her words were like a knife in my gut. That's not true. Just go, she yelled, throwing the lipstick on the floor. Get out. It was the first time I had ever seen her cry. My heart ached. I looked at the broken lipstick on the floor, then at her heartbroken face. There was nothing I could say. I turned and walked out into the pouring rain. I stood there, letting the cold water soak me to the bone, and called Leo. Leo, dude, you sound terrible. What's up? I need you to do something for me, I said, my voice as cold as the rain. I want to buy Stellar Solutions. What? Are you insane? Just for a woman? Yes. I hung up and looked up at the light in her 30th floor window. You think I'm just a freeloader, Ava? Fine. Let me show you who I really am. The next few days were a blur of cold silence. I stayed at Leo's, orchestrating the hostile takeover of Stellar Solutions from his living room. Every evening, I would drive by Ava's office, just to see the light on in her window. Then, Leo handed me a gold-embossed invitation. It was from my father. A wedding invitation. Groom, Ethan Vance. Bride, Ava Sterling. The wedding was next week. What the hell is he playing at? I roared. Probably trying to force your hand, Leo said with a shrug. My father had sent one to Ava, too. What would she think? That this was all a part of my master plan? That I had been lying to her from the beginning, just to trap her in this marriage? I grabbed my keys and tore out of the house. I found her leaving her office, the same invitation clutched in her hand. She saw me, saw the Lamborghini I was driving, and her face hardened into a mask of pure contempt. Ethan, she said, her voice like ice. Or should I say, Mr. Vance? She knew. Ava, let me explain. Explain what? She said, backing away. That you play me for a fool? That this was all some sick game to you? No, it wasn't like that. Enough. She threw the invitation at my face. I never want to see you again. You are the most disgusting man I have ever met. The word disgusting hit me like a physical blow. Is that what you really think of me? I asked, my own voice turning cold. What else am I supposed to think? She said, her voice breaking. You lied about everything. This was all just a ploy to trick me into this marriage, wasn't it? From her perspective, I had no defense. Yes, I said finally, the fight draining out of me. I lied. I am Ethan Vance. She flinched as if I had slapped her. But, I said, looking her straight in the eye, my feelings for you. Those were never a lie. Feelings? She scoffed. Save it. I'm not interested. She turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. My phone rang. It was my father. Did you get the invitation, son? He said, his voice smug. You will be there. Fine, I said, my voice dead. But you might as well break my legs now, because she won't be there. What? You heard me, I said, my voice cracking. You just lost your daughter-in-law. Again. I hung up and slammed my fist against the steering wheel. On Wednesday, Stellar Solutions held a press conference. They announced they had been acquired by a mysterious overseas firm. The new CEO announced their first order of business. They will be sharing all of their patented technology with their former rival, Nexus Dynamics. The news sent shockwaves through the tech world. I was watching on TV when my phone rang. It was Eleanor. Ethan, was that you? She asked. Yes. There was a long silence. Why? Because I don't like seeing her unhappy, I said simply. She sighed. Ava has locked herself in her office for 3 days. She's not eating. Maybe. You should go see her. I found her in her office, staring out at the city. She was thinner, her face pale and drawn. On her desk was the signed acquisition contract and my wedding invitation. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice flat. "To give you this." I placed a document on her desk. Stock transfer agreement. It gifted her my entire controlling interest in a new Stellar Solutions. Her eyes widened. What? What is this?" "A parting gift," I said, leaning against her desk, adopting my old, arrogant persona. "Consider it compensation for your emotional distress." "I don't want it." "You have to take it," I said. "It's yours." She stared at me, her expression a whirlwind of confusion and anger. "Ethan," she said finally, her voice shaking. "What is your endgame? Why go to all this trouble?" "My endgame," I smiled, walking towards her until I had her pinned between me and her desk. "My endgame has always been the same." I looked into her wide, frightened eyes and said, my voice soft but firm, "I want to marry you, Ava Sterling. Not because of some business deal, because I'm in love with you. I love the way you pretend to be tough, but are secretly soft. I love that you sneak ice cream in the middle of the night. I love that you kissed me when you were drunk, and I love that you threw yourself in front of me to protect me." "So," I said, gently touching her cheek, "are you done playing games? Because if you are, it's time to come home and get married." She stared at me, tears welling in her eyes. Then, she slapped me across the face with the stock transfer agreement. "Jerk," she sobbed. I just laughed, rubbing my cheek. "You know what they say? Hitting is a sign of affection. You must be crazy about me." She raised the folder to hit me again, but I caught her wrist and pulled her into my arms. "Stop fighting it," I whispered in her ear. "I'm sorry I lied to you. I was an idiot." She struggled for a moment, then collapsed against my chest, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I held her, stroking her hair, until her tears subsided. She pulled back, her eyes red and puffy. "You're an asshole, Ethan Vance," she sniffled. "I know. You're a liar. I know. If you ever lie to me again." "I won't," I swore. "From now on, you get all my passwords, all my credit cards. You get all of me." A small smile broke through her tears. That night, we talked for hours. We cleared up every lie, every misunderstanding. A week later, on the day of our supposed wedding, we went to the courthouse. My father, in a grand gesture of apology, had booked the entire place for us. There was a red carpet and a line of his bodyguards. "Your father is so extra," Ava muttered. "You get used to it." I shrugged. We signed the papers, and the clerk handed us our marriage license. I looked at the beautiful woman beside me, my wife. "Mrs. Vance," I said, testing out the name. A blush crept up her cheeks. "You know," I whispered in her ear, "I think I preferred boss." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you want to sleep on the couch for the first year of our marriage?" "No, ma'am," I said, grabbing her hand. "My mistake." As we walked out into the sunshine, she turned to me. "So, when exactly did you buy my rival company?" "The night you kicked me out," I admitted. She stopped walking and stared at me. "So, let me get this straight. I threw you out of my house, and you immediately went and spent billions of dollars to buy me a present." Yeah, pretty much." She shook her head, a look of pure exasperation on her face. "Ethan, are you insane?" "Completely," I said, grinning like an idiot. "It's a sickness. It's called being in love with you, and it's terminal." She stared at me for a long moment, then broke into a radiant smile. She stood on her toes and gave me a soft, sweet kiss. "Well," she said, her eyes sparkling, "since it's such a serious condition, I guess I'll have to take care of you." I whooped with joy and swung her around in my arms, our laughter echoing in the bright, clear air. Our story was just beginning. There would be more fights, more misunderstandings, I was sure. But it didn't matter, because I, the runaway heir, had finally found the one person I never wanted to run away from. And she, the Ice Queen, had finally found the one person she could let her guard down with, the one person she could trust to be there while she ate her ice cream.